Okay, well, I'm going to start the webinar discussion now. I am happy to do the introduction. You see the agenda here in front of you. We've got about a 10-minute expected introduction for you. My name is Court Olson. After the introduction, we're very honored and pleased to have a guest speaker from the San Francisco Bay Area, who I'll introduce at that moment. And she'll be speaking and doing a presentation for about 30 minutes, after which we'll have about 15 minutes of questions and answers. And then following her, we'll have a group of local public officials brainstorm on the regional collaboration opportunities that we might be able to develop here in our area. At this point, I'm going to scoot on into the introduction. Still seeing people join, but we'll get going and get through this quickly. So in our introduction, we're going to cover just three things. What is People for Climate Action? Many of you probably have heard of it, but we'll discover a little bit more background. And I want to talk about whether we're doing facts or opinions this morning, and why People for Climate Action chose to create this webinar. So People for Climate Action is an organization that is active only in King County at the moment. We have 13 different city groups in different cities in King County. And we have those chapters to work with our local city governments. So we're collaborating with King County from time to time and with the state from time to time. Our main goal is to work with our cities to get greenhouse gas emissions down, to hit those targets that our cities have set up. The 50% reduction in emissions by 2030 is high on our priorities radar. These are the cities that we have active chapters in, and perhaps we'll have more as time goes by, but we have these 13 active chapters at this time. And we also have a number of independent but partnering or participating organizations, some of which are on the screen here now. So we are able to gather a pretty large following when the need arises to influence our public officials. So speaking about facts or opinions, all of the people that are in this webinar today and all of our People for Climate Action members are volunteers. Nobody's getting paid. Everyone has volunteered their time this morning, and no one's going to be expecting any future financial benefit from what we're doing. It's all in the interest of educating folks and discussing about where we might go in developing stronger efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we thought that was important to bring up, especially in this time when there's a lot of misinformation. Nearly all of what you're going to be hearing is factual until we get to the panel discussion that's brainstorming on where we might go from here. Then we'll be hearing some opinions. But by and large, prior to that, we're just going to be sharing facts with you. So why did People for Climate Action choose to create this webinar? Well, it's no secret that our planet is in crisis. If you've not seen something like this, I just thought I'd share this graphic from an organization, a nonprofit called Berkeley Earth, that obviously is based in Berkeley, California, and it's composed of mostly scientists, many of them physicists from the University of California, Berkeley, and they collect data. And one of the things they do is they project that data in charts such as this, which gives you a pretty good picture of where our global warming situation is at, and we're very, very close to that critical 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature rise that the United Nations and many others have been worried about us surpassing. So we're at a very critical juncture at this time, and we really need to do everything we can to bring down our greenhouse gas emissions to avoid the further warming of the planet. Want to mention also that cities play a major role, and that's why People for Climate Action is focused on our cities. And nationwide and actually globally, cities account for 70 to 75% of greenhouse gas emissions, and there are many different sources that carry that information. You can Google it and fact check that. Most of our emissions are associated with what's going on in our cities. And buildings are a big part of the emissions problem, we know. So that's why we're doing this webinar that focuses on buildings. And just to drive home the point, this graphic comes from Rocky Mountain Institute. They have a carbon-free city handbook that they published about 5 years ago. And this is one of the graphics. It's a pie chart, really. And the P-colored part of this chart indicates how much greenhouse gas emissions in cities are associated with buildings and the building sector. Transportation is a big part, of course, and some other parts are important, but buildings typically in many of our cities are close to half of the problem. In fact, in my home city here of Bellevue, Washington, the latest greenhouse gas emissions inventory from our city shows that commercial buildings are about 25%, residential buildings are about 24%. So together, they're almost half of the greenhouse gas emissions inventory for our city. Of course, transportation is a significant part too, as are some other elements. But buildings are a big part of our problem and therefore need to be a big part of our solutions. There are some other reasons for choosing this webinar is that individually, most cities don't have the resources to tackle this problem alone. Also, helping building owners cut greenhouse gas emissions is somewhat complicated and time-consuming. Regionally, governments can pool their resources to create effective programs. We're seeing some of that develop here in King County already, but we're hoping to make it even bigger and broader in terms of government collaboration. And in our research of what's going on around the country, People for Climate Action has found that in the Bay Area region, there is, and has been for 10 years now, what's called a regional energy network of 9 different counties around the Bay Area that are collaborating in efforts to bring down greenhouse gas emissions in buildings, especially in the residential sector. And finally, another purpose for our webinar today is to hear local officials in our area around Puget Sound reactions and get their brainstorm ideas on how we might broaden this cooperative effort across multiple government jurisdictions, at least in the Puget Sound area. So that's why we're bringing this webinar to you today. So our next speaker that I'm happy to introduce is Jenny Berg. And before I formally ask her to come on the screen here, I just want to point out that the chat is not available for attendees to use. If you have questions, please use the Q&A button that is on the lower part of your screen, and then, or maybe the upper part of your screen, depending upon where it appears in your organization of your screen. And then you can ask questions that we will all see and hopefully be able to answer when we get to the Q&A part of the program after Jenny Berg presents her slides to us today. So I see Jenny has, well, there she was here. Now she can come back. Hi, Jenny. Jenny Berg is coming to us from the Bay Area, or at least that's where she resides. And I've asked her to do a self-introduction and then carry us on through her slideshow. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let her share hers. You need to unmute. There you go.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I'm currently out of town at my husband's high school reunion in a hotel. So I apologize in advance if you hear any sounds. So I am Jenny Berg. I am really thrilled to be speaking to you all from King County, because in my former career as an attorney, I did a lot of research on e-filing in the courts, and King County was way ahead of the curve. So I feel somewhat honored to be speaking to you all. Today, need to figure out how to, sorry, I'm having issues with my, okay. So I'm going to introduce myself briefly, set the context for my remarks, which is the climate policy in California and the mechanism for energy efficiency funding, and then spend most of the time talking about BayREN, who we are, how it started, and our current program portfolio. So who am I? I am a recovered attorney. I practiced civil litigation in the area of toxic tort litigation for quite a while, and had kind of a aha moment when I was stuck in traffic, picking up my kids, thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I have many years ahead of me, and I'm not really feeling passionate about what I'm doing. So that led me to a career in the environmental space. Specifically commencing in January of 2013, I was hired as the program administrator for this new thing called BayREN. I was employed by the Association of Bay Area Governments, which is the regional housing agency for the 9 Bay Area county. During my tenure, I held leadership roles in several statewide energy efficiency and climate-related groups in California. And I will say that I'm a very strong advocate for local government collaboration. The motto of my agency was "Be Regionable." So turning to California, kind of our North Star is the climate goals for the state. There is a target of reaching GHG emissions 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. So that really requires an all hands on deck effort, and the goals are highlighted on this slide with the different sectors. So what I'm going to focus on is this double energy efficiency savings in existing buildings. As Court mentioned, buildings generate a lot of GHG emissions, and they're also the hardest savings often to achieve, particularly in existing buildings. So California has what is called a public purpose program surcharge. All utility customers have as a line item on their monthly utility bill a surcharge, the PPP surcharge, that is used to fund different efforts in the state, research and development, low-income programs, and energy efficiency programs. California is a very large state, so we are talking about billions with the B dollars of money that goes into the PPP program. The California Public Utilities Commission, or CPUC, is responsible for allocating where the PPP funds go, specifically for energy efficiency programs. There are 3 types of entities that are eligible to receive these funds. And this is, again, I'm focusing just on the energy efficiency programs. The investor-owned utilities, community choice aggregators, and regional energy networks. The CPUC retains regulatory authority over all program administrators and approves program portfolios as well as budgets. So I'm not as familiar with the energy landscape where you are, but in California, and drilling down more specifically to the Bay Area, there are the investor-owned utilities. In my territory, it's Pacific Gas and Electric. They provide natural gas and electricity, and they own the transmission lines. They also offer energy efficiency and other programs, but because of some regulatory issues, they are not as involved in running programs as much as they used to be. Community choice aggregators, particularly in the Bay Area, but across the state, have significantly proliferated. What a CCA is a group of local governments that have joined together under a joint powers authority to purchase electricity for their constituents. The electricity is still generated through the transmission lines owned by the IOUs, but they make all of the decisions for what energy is procured. They offer programs. They tend to focus more on the transportation sector, but also have some energy efficiency programs. And then finally, regional energy networks, which I will talk about in depth. And they, by definition, are a collaboration of local governments. Okay, so now hopefully I've set the context for California. And now turning specifically to regional energy networks, or RENs. So we now are in the IRA period, where there is a significant amount of funding available for local governments. And the RENs were created after the ARA period under the Obama years. And what happened then was, for the first time in California, local governments banded together to get funding and to work together to implement energy efficiency programs. In the Bay Area, 8 of our 9 counties worked together. And what was found was that it was a really efficient way to offer energy efficiency programs. Furthermore, local governments are seen as trusted messengers, and we thought, hey, we're doing a much better job than PG&E and the investor-owned utilities. We should get money from the CPUC to offer these programs. So the CPUC thought, okay, let's give this a try. So in 2012, they invited proposals from local governments for a new model of administering ratepayer-funded programs outside of the IOU control. So 2 motions were filed, one by LA County and one by ABAG, and we were approved as a pilot. That was to go into effect January 1, 2013. My first day was January 13th, 2013, so I really was there from the absolute very beginning. Now, traditionally, for energy efficiency programs, as well as other programs, they are evaluated based on a traditional cost effectiveness standard. The CPUC was very thoughtful in approving this idea of a REN and said, we're not going to hold you to a cost effectiveness standard. And the reason why is that the types of programs that a REN can offer are very, very limited. They need to be programs and activities that the utilities or CCAs cannot or do not intend to undertake. They need to be you can pilot a program where there's no current offering. And then finally, RENs can offer programs to hard to reach markets, whether or not there's an existing program. So that was the original mandate of the RENs, and it continues to date. In 2019, this was a very landmark decision for those of us in the REN space. The CPUC took us off of pilot status and made us permanent program administrators. This was a huge win for local governments, not only because we were permanent, but also with some of the language that the CPUC used to describe the value of RENs, again, channeling and harnessing our role as local government entities. Currently in California, there are 5 approved RENs representing 86% of the population of the state. We have a $600 million budget for the next portfolio period of 2024 to 2027. As I said, there's 5 RENs and there's another REN that is in the works. Turning now specifically to BayREN, I have a slide here just so that you can have kind of an understanding of how we operate. So the PUC is our boss. We have many reporting obligations to them. They approve our programs and they approve our budget. They do not want to be a contracting entity. So in 2012, they ordered that PG&E, that the investor and utility in our territory, serve as a fiscal agent. That's primarily for the contractual flow of the ratepayer funds into our program. So PG&E serves as a fiscal agent. ABAG, where I worked, is who we contracted with, and we, as a program administrator, served the executive board, and they approved all of our contracts as well as our work plan. Court mentioned the role of the cities. In the Bay Area, there's 101 cities. So what we do, we work with the counties. There's a lead county agency for each of the 9 counties. It's mostly the county, but there's some other agencies that lead for some of our other counties. And we have a contractual relationship, we being ABAG as the program administrator, with each of the county. They are responsible contractually to ensure that all of their cities and all of their constituents are aware of BayREN programs and do all sorts of outreach and other activities with the cities and the residents. And then finally, some of the counties also serve as a lead of one of our programs. So BayREN is a regional program. All of our programs are the same across our region. What's different is that the outreach is locally focused based on, that's the role of the county. You may not know it if you read most news, but the Bay Area is extremely diverse, socioeconomically, politically, climate zone. So there's a lot of diversity that, from a regional perspective, we are not the best to tap into. That's where the counties come in, knowing what works best in their area. So again, as I mentioned, counties play a key role. And they have a lot of responsibility for ensuring that BayREN programs are marketed and uptake in their counties. Turning now to our current program portfolio, we were just approved for an expansion of our portfolio as well as our budget for the program period 2024 to 2027. We have a budget of about $102 million, which is a significant increase from where we started, which was a $12 million a year, having to be renewed each year budget. So we could not be more pleased with all of the progress and momentum BayREN has had, but also the energy efficiency administrators in California. This slide is just broken down to the different segmentation that was required of the program administrators by the CPUC. If folks are interested, I'm happy to talk more about that during the Q&A period. So who we serve pretty much everybody. We have a program for small and medium businesses, many residential programs that target multifamily, single family homeowners and renters, contractors. We also have programs for local government staff and also the building industry and real estate professionals. And I'll touch briefly on each program. Here on this slide is the name of our programs, and just wanted to point out that those programs in green were programs that were just approved and will be launched in 2024. Our largest program is our single family Home Plus program, which I will mention is under construction. We probably will be making some significant tweaks to this program, but currently it's a rebate program. We have a list of eligible measures with associated incentives. We offer an energy advisor service, which is kind of a concierge call-in number where we provide information to contractors and to residents. We focus a lot on training contractors to bring them into our program. The program does require that the contractor be one of our participating contractors. And we have had an increased focus on bringing in non-English speaking contractors with the hope that they will then offer our program to non-English speaking communities. Our green labeling program has two components. The first is a focus on real estate professionals, where we provide training on really the attributes and benefits of a green home. The hope is that with increased education, that realtors will then be kind of a promoter of a green home. And the second component is the Home Energy Score program, which is a DOE program that was developed to offer a standardized label for understanding how a home's energy efficiency compares to other homes. So we offer this in the Bay Area, and we were just approved to be the statewide lead of this program. So in 2026, Home Energy Score will be available throughout the entire state. Our multifamily program is kind of the gold star in our portfolio. We have received national recognition for this program. This is a very, very hard sector to crack, and the program design has really proven to be successful. So we offer no-cost energy consulting. We have consultants that do an extensive energy audit of the multifamily program. The multifamily property. And the property owner then can make a decision as to what measures they want to implement. And there are requirements that there be at least a 15% energy savings from the selected scope. We offer cash rebates ranging from $500 to $5,000 per unit. So depending on the number of units in the property, the amount of rebates can be quite substantial. One element of this program that's proven to be very successful is that we do not interface with the contractor. Many property owners have their own, either on staff folks that they work with, or have existing relationships with contractors, and that's proven to be a really good selling point for the program. Sorry, my computer seemed. So the rebate structure has recently changed. So there is a base 500 per unit rebate for all measures, and then we have adders for if there's electrification measures, if it's in a heat burden area, other things that are a bonus that can lead up to the $5,000 per unit rebate. Switching gears a little bit is our Water Upgrade Save program, which is a program that we partner with water utilities. So some of you may have heard of PACE. Haze is somewhat similar in that the water utility provides the customer an opportunity to select whatever water energy saving measure they want. The utility will have a contractor come out and install the measure, and then the water customer pays back the cost of that service on their water bill, with the premise that the water savings will equal what the surcharge on their bill that they are paying back. So we have 3 different water utility partnerships and are looking to expand this program. Our BayREN business program serves very small, hard to reach businesses and is a pay for performance program, meaning that incentives are paid only if energy is actually saved. And then turning to programs for local governments, our Codes and Standards program provides training and resources for local government staff, primarily building departments. The whole goal of the Codes and Standards program is to increase energy code compliance. This is through, again, training, through adoption of REACH codes or local energy policies that go beyond the California Energy Code. And these are just some of the activities that we offer through this program. An offshoot of the codes program is the municipal ZNE technical assistance program. And this is where we provide free engineering support for municipal buildings that will provide a detailed report for the municipal facility, what they need to do to become zero net energy. And also from the codes program is that we have this kind of pilot program, our Resilient Libraries Network Initiative, which provides similar support around engineering of the building, but also works with the libraries to identify different funding sources. Everybody loves their library. Libraries tend to be based in communities. And so the idea is that in the time of a wildfire, which unfortunately California sees a lot of, or extreme heat, or planned service shutdowns, which is where the utilities shut off the electricity if there's a wildfire risk, that community members can go to the library, and that is a community resource center. So turning now briefly to our new programs, we have several programs that are focused on municipal buildings. Those of you in local government know you have a lot to do, you're very busy, yet there's always these new goals and policies that come down and no time or funding to do it. So in California, as I would imagine also in Washington, decarbonization, electrification of buildings is a very, very hot topic. And so these programs really are designed to help municipal, local governments with their facilities with both technical and financial support, but also education. So I'm happy to send these slides and have more information on the different offerings of the program. And another component is our energy concierge service. Again, somebody that serves as a single point of contact and can really handhold folks that are working on their facilities. Also providing an energy roadmap, which is a detailed roadmap of what they need to do and how they can help find some of the resources. Okay, second to last new program. So our Climate Careers program is a continuation of our Greenhouse Calls program, which is a really wonderful partnership we have with a community-based organization in Emeryville, California. And they offer, the Greenhouse Calls program is a summer program working with youth ages 15 to 24 in our equity priority communities, which is our term for disadvantaged communities. And the goal is to introduce youth to a career in the climate space. The youth are provided training in direct install energy efficiency, and then, excuse me, they go into their own communities and actually do the work. The climate, excuse me, the Climate Careers Program is a continuation of Greenhouse Calls, and those that are interested in additional job training and hopefully ultimate placement in a good paying green job. And then finally, a high priority of the state is reducing harmful GHG emitting refrigerants. So this program will focus on that in the small mom and pop grocery stores. So just ending, as Court said, we just celebrated 10 years. We've had many, many fantastic successes in those 10 years that we're very proud of. And on this slide, I'll show you just some of the regional accomplishments and impacts that we've had in 10 years. And I will stop there and just leave this slide up so that everybody can see. I guess if I can just continue with my bragging rights. So Court, I will take it back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Jenny. I hope everyone will appreciate all of the work that you've done in the Bay Area. It's an outstanding achievement. Excuse me, got the same frog in my throat. And we're now in the period of approximately 15 minutes where we'll take questions and try to field some answers. I see in the Q&A log that you might also be able to see, Jenny, that we have 4 questions. I have a few written down of my own that I could ask if we have the time, but let's just go through the 4 that are on the screen. We had another question prior to these 4 that came from a local city council member here in Bellevue, Washington, that I typed an answer to, but our local council member Janice Zahn is raising the obvious question about how do we channel the state level monies that are in part coming from the federal government, but also generated at the state level, how we channel them into local programs. And there is a lot we could talk about there, but I just replied to council members on that People for Climate Action will follow up with our responses to her after the webinar and hopefully work with her and others to help in the channeling of those funds. I see we have a 5th question now, so we'll run through these in the order that they've been asked. First question that I'll read to the audience says, does PGE, that's the investor-owned utility in the Bay Area, see you as a partner filling service gaps which are outside their expertise, or as a competitor?
Great question, Kevin. Thank you very much. So that answer changed when we first started. PG&E and the other utilities saw us as a huge threat. And there was some underhanded activities. There was a couple years, I would say, of tension. Starting about midway through, I'd say about 5 years, PG&E realized the value, and I'll just speak about BayREN because BayREN has the best relationship with our IOU than the other RENs. PG&E saw our value in that we could do things that they cannot do. And that was kind of an aha moment for them. So my answer is PG&E sees us as a valued partner. We have an extremely collaborative relationship with them. We understand what each other's role is and what each other's role is not. But again, I'm answering that question 10 years out. If you had asked me that 1 year out, the answer would have been no. I don't know about the IOU in your territory, but you want them to be your friend. It makes it a lot easier. LA County does not have a very good relationship with their IOUs, and the shenanigans that goes on is not good.
Thanks, Jenny. For those who may not be aware, in much of the Puget Sound region, we do have, there's that frog again, we do have investor-owned utility service, but we do have public utilities in parts of our region, so it's a mix. Sarah Phillips has question number 2, and I'll read it. She says, I'd love to understand the number of households you are able to serve per year in your program, and how that tracks with current funding and emissions reductions related to that.
Thanks for the question. I can't give you a number. I can certainly get back to you with the number. Yeah, I'm a little, so that program, we had, I think we had a $3 million incentive budget that we kind of blew through and were able to shift some funds around. The emissions reduction is a little challenging. It's a deemed program, so there's a determined amount of savings for each measure. I'm happy to get back to you, Sarah. I'd hate to give you the wrong information, but that's certainly something that we track.
Well, if you'll shoot your response to me,
Yeah,
Jenny, expanded response, I'll be happy to pass it on to Sarah, because I do have her email. Third question comes again from Kevin Jones. He's asking, is the home energy score mandatory or voluntary?
another great question. So it depends. For the most part, it's voluntary. There are two jurisdictions in Alameda County, Berkeley, and the city of Piedmont that mandate it upon a certain activity. So I think Berkeley mandates it at time of sale, and Piedmont mandates it for at time of sale or a significant renovation. The statewide program will be voluntary. The way that we look at it is if a local government wants it to be mandatory, that we will work with them to help them pass that, but the program itself is voluntary.
Great, thanks. Along that same line of thinking on the home energy score, People for Climate Action floated a bill in our legislature here in Washington State this last legislative session to create the HES program standard across the state, voluntary for local jurisdictions to adopt or not, but at least a standardized procedure. So we're wondering, what was the legislative process and political support for making the HES program statewide there in California? Do you know?
I'm sorry, there's not the legislative process for it. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Well, if it's going to be offered statewide, what was the process for that occurring and becoming available statewide? I understand it hasn't happened statewide yet, but you said in 2026 it will be.
Yeah, we don't deal with the legislature. CPUC is an administrative agency. They give us funding. We offer a program. So there's no legislative mandate. It's just a program that will be offered statewide.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. we have
enough problems. We don't need the legislature to.
Well, you're in a good position to do that. I'm not sure we could do that here, but maybe we can. Let's see. Another question from Sarah Phillips. Scrolling down here. Sarah says, multifamily is really hard. Thank you for sharing some aspects of the design. What were some of the key lessons learned in designing a program that works?
So we attribute our success to a program design that is very simple. We offer free technical assistance. You can use whatever contractor you want, and the rebate level is somewhat flat. We just changed it for the first 9 years, it was a flat $750 per unit rebate. So it's just a very simple program. That was kind of the main level of success. We also, it's a regional program. Many folks have portfolios in different counties in our region, so that was very attractive. And we also did our outreach through the county. So we would send a letter on county letterhead. People are much less likely to toss something in the trash if it comes from their county. So that was something that we felt, the local government branding really helped us. We haven't done outreach in this program since the very beginning. It's really, really just been word of mouth. So I'd say, to answer your question, simplicity is key.
Okay, great, thanks. Lynn Fitzhughes came in a little late this morning and just was asking where the money comes from. And that would roll into the next question from Dave Russell about the level of the utility surcharge. So could you answer both?
Sure. So it's a level charge. The public purpose PPP is just a line item on everybody's utility bill that goes into a giant pot of money that the California Public Utilities Commission then allocates for different purposes, including energy efficiency programs.
And what is that level of surcharge on the utility bill? Do you know?
I think it's like a couple bucks. I'm guessing. I'm trying to think of my very long utility bill. I mean, it's not substantial, but the population of California times whatever the small amount equals a lot of money.
Sure. Okay, we have another question on our list from Kevin Jones. He asks regarding the Home Energy Score program, have you found the program motivates home energy efficiency changes, and how has that been received?
Yeah, so our program, the home energy score is just something that's developed by DOE. But what we have done is we provide ideas for how people can achieve greater savings that tend to be the same of what's offered in our programs. So yes, we have found that it has motivated some people. I think it's also been awareness, like somebody might not realize that their home really is not very efficient. So that gets them thinking and getting them on a path of what they can do.
Sure, great, thanks. Incidentally, for people who may not know, the state of Oregon has statewide standardization using the home energy score as a basis for home analysis as well. And some of the cities in Oregon, including Portland and Bend, Oregon, and some suburbs of Portland, as well as Salem and a few other cities, have made it a mandatory requirement at the point of sale of a home. So we're thinking once we get our bill passed in the legislature this next session, we look forward to seeing it becoming a useful tool here in Washington State.
And also, I would look at what they've done with the rental market, because that the transparency and the energy usage. This is at least in Portland, but yes, or everything has started in Portland and is now expanded into the entire state. But they're really, really doing great things, and I think it's been pretty well received. I mean, a lot of times the real estate folks will appear at city council meetings and try to stop things, but I think Oregon is really good has done a really, really good job.
Yeah, reports we have from people in Portland that was initially in the first adoption of the home energy score tool, there was some challenge from the real estate community, but that went away after just a couple of weeks. And in fact, we've seen posted on the Portland website a number of realtors favoring home energy score because it helps them to educate a buyer and a seller on the pros and cons of a property. So
Right.
it has become a useful tool in their jurisdictions. Back to our questions list, Terry Jorgensen asks, how do you handle issues with city incorporated areas versus unincorporated areas as far as funding upgrade goes?
Um, so we don't provide funding to cities. We work with the counties. So obviously, you know, they have a lot of interest in the unincorporated areas. So our programs are available to all PG&E customers. I think there's 2 jurisdictions that are not PG&E customers, but everybody gets equal outreach and the ability to participate in the programs regardless of where they live.
Great. Next question comes from David Camp. He asks, back to your relationship with PG&E, how did you begin to collaborate and what was the utility's motive for doing so? Was there a particular turning point?
Well, PG&E didn't have a choice. The Public Utilities Commission approved us. So that was kind of the beginning of it. But I think it's, you know, collaboration takes time and it takes trust and it takes a long time to build. And I mean, I think it's, you know, kind of my philosophy goes beyond my relationship with PG&E, but we just need to, you know, we need to appreciate that we all want to do the right thing. Our heart's in the right places. It's not a competition. We all have the same goals in mind, and you know, just willing to take the time to listen to each other, to hear each other, and to build that trust. So you know, it took time, but I'd say that when I don't know if I mentioned that I recently retired. I mean, some of my strongest relationships professionally were with people from PG&E.
Great. Well, I'm going to take time for one more question from me. You mentioned that you used home energy advisors at no charge to homeowners. How are those advisors trained and or scrubbed and or vetted to be used in your system?
They have to be BPI certified, so they have to have an understanding about energy efficiency, about buildings, and you know, because it's a customer service position, they need to be nice and stay abreast of the different offerings in the Bay Area, which honestly change, you know, daily.
So who
So that
certifies them? Who gives them
so
the
there.
license to do this?
Oh, it's through, we have a consultant and they work for the consultant. So we have certain requirements. One, like that they be BPI certified. There has to be a certain number that speak other languages, Spanish, Chinese. So it's not like, it's not an actual certification. It's just, you know, it's like a more than, I mean, it is a call center, but it's a little more than one would think of, you know, a typical call center.
Okay, thank you. Well, Jenny, we've really appreciated your presentation and your response to questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us today. I see some other questions have just quickly popped up. And one of them is to me, another is to, well, there's a quick question here at the bottom of the list from Annie Phillips. What is BPI?
Building Performance Institute. So it's a certification on building performance.
And that's local to California?
No, it's national.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you so much, Jenny. Great presentation. You're welcome to stay on as we move to the next part of our program where we have a great group of panelists to join us and discuss, brainstorm, I say, what they might see us do in the future here in our area. So a big hand of applause. Thank you to Jenny for her presentation today. And I'm going to share my screen just briefly again. So the officials that we're so pleased to have with us today are up on your screen here. I'm going to ask each of them to unmute and share their own personal videos with us here as we ask them to do self-introductions. I do have to say with regrets, our very last person on the list, the Washington State Legislator Representative, Davina Dorr, reports in this morning that she is down sick with COVID. So she is unfortunately unable to join us, and that's a loss for us, but I'm sure that she'll be following this and at least watching the recording when she recovers, and that we can follow up with her and other legislators on how we might pursue doing such collaborative work across jurisdictions, particularly here in the Puget Sound region, but in other parts of the state as well, as has been the evolution in California. So you will not be able to, and those of you in the audience will not be able to use the Q&A function now. This is a fairly short time frame for this brainstorming discussion. But these are the questions that I posed in advance to these officials who were so kind to share their Saturday morning with us. The questions you can read on the screen, but we're asking them to just brainstorm and speculate on how we might do something similar to the the regional energy network tool that developed in parts of California, started in the Bay Area. How could we promote and encourage and create a multi-jurisdiction organization that would support local government efforts to assist homeowners and businesses in reducing greenhouse gas emissions? And a question number two, it can be woven into the same discussion: what potential hurdles might we need to overcome? And question number three, where will the money come from, or might the money come from? What mechanisms might we use to financially fund such efforts? So I'll stop talking now and stop sharing my screen, and look forward to hearing these panelists and distinguished public officials do quick self-introductions at first, and then dive into the brainstorming. So whoever wants to start, please start, and then pass the baton. Claudia, you want to start?
Well, I was going to say I'll go first because of the alphabet, but Jay's here. So why don't we go alphabetically? Jay, you go first.
Okay, thanks, Claudia. I'm Jay Arnold. I'm Deputy Mayor of the City of Kirkland. I'm active in the King County Cities Climate Collaboration, where cities and counties work together and share staff on work. Also, I want to note that together, several East Side cities have also formed the East Side Climate Partnership to implement programs jointly and scale up our work, like the Energy Smart East Side Heat Pump campaign. Finally, I know the discussion today is around existing buildings, but I wanted to note that I represent Western Washington cities on the State Building Code Council, which recently developed a major update to energy codes in Washington State that will take effect in March of 2024.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks.
Now, Claudia.
Yeah, I'm Claudia Balducci, used to being at the front of the line, but not when Jay's around. I am the King County Council member for District 6, and that's East King County, Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, Mercer Island, and the Points area. I also serve on the Puget Sound Regional Council. I'm the immediate past president there. And we, of course, are a member of the K4C. We are the K in the K4C, King County. So got a lot of different viewpoints on the discussion we'll be having today, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
And she's also a former mayor of the city of Bellevue.
True.
Megan, you want to go next?
Sure, I like the alphabetize. That's easy enough. My name's Megan Dunn. I'm on the Snohomish County Council. I represent District 2, which is Everett, Mukilteo, and Tulalip. So pretty varied in that we have the urban core and also tribal lands and kind of the bedroom community of Mukilteo. I'm also the chair of our Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. I'm also on the Puget Sound Regional Council, and I'm currently chair of our Board of Health for our county as well.
Thanks, Megan. Ryan?
Well, thank you, Court, and good morning, everyone. Great to be with everybody this morning for this important conversation. I'm Ryan Mello. I serve as chair of the Pierce County Council. I use he, him, and his pronouns. And I've used to serve on the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency board in a previous life in my city government experience in Tacoma, and along with Claudia and Jay and Megan, really believe in the power of regional governance. And so spend a lot of my time at the Puget Sound Regional Council as well, currently serving as vice chair of the Transportation Policy Board. And in my previous life at the Tacoma City Council, worked really hard with Jay to update Vision 2050 to really put in place many of these planning principles and goals for how our region grows. So really appreciate being participating in this climate conversation.
Well, thank you, all of you, for joining us today and making the time for this. I know you all have very, very busy schedules. We know that from trying to get a test of the Zoom network going in advance of this real session today. So please feel free to start the discussion on how you see pathways and potential obstacles to creating a regional energy network that we can all benefit from in multiple jurisdictions.
I am happy to dive in. So we, as you can hear from all of our introductions, we have got a number of collaborative spaces, very formal and, from legally established with very, set state roles, state legislative roles and federal legislative roles, all the way to, collaborations that are informal and, just kind of working together and sharing information and policies and procedures. So there's a precedent here for pulling together that kind of regional work. I think there's a reason why Court has heavily invited from the Puget Sound Regional Council, because that organization has a process that looks, sort of a kind of as an analogy, the most like what we're talking about here with the California RENs. We have a regular, robust stream of transportation funding, about $300 million a year. It's the best kept secret in all of Puget Sound. And it comes through the state to the regional council, and we have developed procedures, policies, grant programs, scoring rubrics, all based on our regional transportation and regional growth plans to allocate that money to projects every cycle is a 2 to 3 year cycle. So we can do that. We're not implementers. We are a grant making organization essentially in that regard. But it's a lot of money. It flows through, and it flows through regularly. So I could conceive of a new stream of work at a place like PSRC that did the same thing for funded climate energy reduction programs. You'd need to set up a new statutory framework. So that would be legislative. You would need, of course, the funding source. Like, that's the big elephant in the room here. You'd need the funding source. There's lots of funds, by the way, now that flow to programs that sound kind of like what Jenny was talking about, but they're one-offs, right? So they're small and not sustainable, and we do a lot of good work, but it's not something that we can sort of just keep doing year after year after year to push programs out into the public. And I guess my caution when we think of barriers would be, if we move in this direction, and there's an opportunity now, of course, with the Climate Commitment Act from the state. If we move in this direction, I think it will be really important for the legislation to say very clearly the goals and some of be directional about the work that we're going to do. Because if you leave it up to a body as diverse as the Puget Sound Regional Council, which has representation from you know, Skycomish to Seattle and, you know, all the way up north to Snohomish to South Pierce. We bring a variety of interests to the table, and it's kind of hard sometimes to really lean into very strong progressive policies around climate, because there's people who have different opinions around the table. But if we were directed, here's your money and here's what you got to spend it on, like, I think that that would be a place where this could potentially happen. It would be new. It would take some setting up. I will stop there for the moment.
I really like those ideas, Claudia. And I just wanted to underline also why I think it's important, leaving you know, taking over from where you left off about what we think the legislature needs to bring clarity to if they begin a new funding source or expand the eligibility of a funding source. Who are the decision makers? What are the eligible uses? And that clarity that Claudia speaks to, so important, not only for the reasons that Claudia mentioned. It's so many different cities and towns and counties in this region. So those very practical reasons so that we can make progress as urgently and quickly as possible. But the other real reason for clarity is to stave off litigation. Right? But many of our rules are being litigated by industry in order to prolong progress. And to the extent we can have more clarity, we can not have, but we might have litigation, but we would withstand that litigation, I believe, right? Like what the State Building Code Council is being faced with, like the indirect emitter rule being challenged, and you know, the climate losing at the Washington State Supreme Court because of the lack of clarity in the Clean Air Act. So clarity is really important also for staving off litigation so that we can pursue this work and not get stuck in litigation for eons. I'll just share on this question of regional collaboration. Claudia shared thoughts about how to continue to utilize the Puget Sound Regional Council, this already created regional body. Double click on that. But I also just wanted to share, I'm really pleased that a small group of us in Pierce County this summer established a K4C-like entity in Pierce County for the first time ever. So our Pierce County Climate Collaborative started this June, bringing together 14 cities and towns, so 2/3 of the cities and towns in Pierce County and the county, our health department, our port, some other special purpose districts, to modeled after K4C. So thank you to our friends in King County, modeled after that, to come together to really focus on how can we leverage our coordination on the Inflation Reduction Act, the Climate Commitment Act, bring dollars home to do implementation for all of our climate plans, and also this really huge opportunity we have in front of us with the updates to our comprehensive plans and how we can align our policies in updating our comprehensive plans together and copy and paste and steal from each other and collaborate together during our comprehensive plan. So we just started this June, and we have a really strong and energetic commitment to continue this Pierce County Climate Collaborative.
That's great to hear. Ryan, I just thought I'd emphasize a little more on the coordination work. So we've got the PSRC and also the Clean Air Agency, which works to enforce clean air and regulate emissions and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And we actually did some of this work in a similar way for transportation. So we have existing models to look at. We have existing frameworks to use, like Claudia mentioned. We have the Regional Electric Vehicle Collaborative. The website for that is PugetSoundRev.org, so PugetSoundRev.org. That website is intended to help municipal planners and decision makers or community groups that are trying to bring examples like this to decision makers. That has resources for preparing for the coming wave, excuse me, of electric vehicles. That same kind of resource could be established for policies and programs that are related to building emissions. It offers model policies and helps coordinate incentive efforts. Like Court mentioned, that's can be a struggle for our smaller municipalities. So that's one example where we've been able to coordinate in a region and have a framework to help with planning and for planners. And then really we're at the cusp of just the beginning stages of an enormous climate pollution reduction grant, sorry. So under the Inflation Reduction Act, every state in the top 27 metropolitan statistical areas were granted non-competitive dollars. And the Clean Air Agency was the coordinator for that effort. So we were able to expand and extend those MSAs to 4 counties that include both PSRC and the Clean Air Agency. And so we have these existing climate action plans. So in the county of Snohomish, each of our cities has been working on climate action plans, and our county has one. So this is an effort to really coordinate everything so we don't have duplication, and we can look at that wedge analysis and make sure that we're addressing the largest greenhouse gas wedges, so that we're coordinating our own climate plans. Our county has a plan, and then just being able to coordinate those efforts. So the initial priority plan is due March of 2024. There's a notice of funding right now, and any project that's included in that priority action plan will then be available to apply for the funding of $4.6 billion. So if we want to work on an effort like this and have the funding source to be the CPRG, then it needs to be part of that kind of planning document in order to be eligible for the next step. So we're at a really great place right now to have these conversations.
Megan, can you just repeat that? What organization has this March deadline, and how do we get that channeled in the right direction?
So the Clean Air Agency is the coordinating body for the Priority Action Plan, which is part of the CPRG, which is our climate reduction act.
Okay, so for everyone's benefit, including me, who's in the Clean Air Agency coalition?
It's established by our it's Snohomish, King, Kitsap, and Pierce County.
Okay, and if my memory served me right, that's the same group of counties that are in the PSRC, the Puget Sound Regional Council, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a good place to start. I know friends in Thurston County and Whatcom County and other counties who might be interested to tag along once this got developed, but that's a subject for later development. Thank you so much for pointing us in that direction, and we'll be circling. People for Climate Action will be circling back with those of you that are active in this March funding deadline and figuring out how we can get cities to become advocates and supporting where we're headed. So a question I have, you may have other thoughts, feel free to bring them up, but what's been missing thus far in a larger regional collaborative sense is focusing on this problem of buildings, because regionally wide, that's close to half of our emissions problem, and it's messy, it's challenging, but it needs to be dealt with. And if you want to speculate on how that might work through either the Clean Air Agency or the Puget Sound Regional Council, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're open to any other thoughts and ideas that you have.
Well, Court, I wanted to jump in a couple of things. When we're talking about the Puget Sound Regional Council as a funding organization, but as Claudia mentioned, not an implementation organization. I do think we need to jump down to the next level and talk about how this gets implemented, because what we've heard from PSRC and the state right now is they want to do bigger grants, not to individual cities, but to partnerships. And that's part of why we formalized the Eastside Climate Partnership, is to receive some big grants that would be shared among Kirkland, Redmond, Bellevue, Issaquah, and Mercer Island. And as Jenny had mentioned before, cities are the trusted messenger here, for better or worse, versus the county or the state. And you've already heard about the broad territories that Claudia and Ryan and Megan represent, and they're one of 5 council members in Snohomish County, 7 in Pierce, and 9 in King. So we're talking about very diverse areas. So the more that we could push things down to cities and partnerships of the cities, I think that'll help do individual needs, where these are going to be the folks that, one, are going to be doing the outreach on the ground, but also have the permitting control to help do the incentives to make these improvements happen.
Great points. Other comments or follow-up?
Well, the work on buildings, of course, there's just a straight line relationship with the work that Jay and the State Building Code Council is doing to set a policy framework for this. And so between their policy framework for new construction in the residential and commercial building structure sectors, and then our incentives to help make that new construction financially viable, and the retrofits of existing buildings, which is a huge cost and must be a huge focus, right? The work of the State Building Code Council, this very little known regulatory agency, just doing monumental work. Just really hats off to Jay and the thoughtfulness of the State Building Code Council.
Sure, I'm familiar with those council people myself, since I've been involved in the building industry for decades. However, they're limited to codes that relate to either new buildings or major renovations. And in many of the improvements we're talking about in buildings, particularly in homes, but also in small commercial buildings and even larger commercial buildings, the efforts may not reach the level of requiring a significant building permit or requiring the use of the existing energy code or new building code. So we're working in an area that the statewide code council probably doesn't have currently at least doesn't have the reach to affect. So it's part of why we, I think, need to be considering developing some sort of hybrid or new approach at a regional level. And I just harken back to what Jenny described. The organization and agency that Jenny led for 10 years in the Bay Area was a spin-off of an alliance of counties that's still in existence, but they created a separate organization just to do this, what amounts to energy efficiency work in buildings. And Jenny, you might elaborate there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of taking notes on some of the things that were said. You mentioned that there's existing regional collaboratives, which I think is great. That a lot of the work that we had to do initially was to get to the point where we had an established collaboration. So I think that's really important, to not reinvent the wheel. I am brutally honest. I think that some of the things that I'm hearing that I think could make things a little bit more problematic is a grant opportunity for the cities, or this or that. Staff are so overworked, and what will happen most likely is those that are more resourced. In my jurisdiction, it would be San Francisco or Oakland can apply for those grants. But the smaller cities that really need it are not going to apply because they don't have the time and a lot of times the expertise. So as you think about collaboration, I think that it's got to be kind of an even playing field. And one of my greatest sources of pride with BayREN was the mentorship that was provided to our lesser resource and our lesser knowledgeable jurisdictions through this model, because it's kind of everybody is on the equal playing field. So that is something that to make it, we are very, very easy that all of the cities have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. They just see the results because we work with as few people as possible. There's one for each county. A county might have 30 cities that they work with. They don't know all of the work that the county is doing. So collaboration, simplicity are really, really key. And then just one other thought, again, I was staff. My board loved BayREN. I got nothing but support from my board, but they were not involved in the day-to-day. They approved what we did. They could see the connection between their own climate goals, but there was no legislation. There were no, formal policies. I could explain how what we did helped them meet their policies and their goals, but that would just be a level of complication and time that I don't know how we would have done. So brutal honesty. Just hearing my feedback against, I was staff. I had an extremely supportive board that was made up of people from counties, cities, across the Bay Area. Sorry, did that answer your question, Court?
Yes, very well, thank you. Any other comments or thoughts from our panelists?
Well, I would add, in addition to, so as part of this planning work around the CPRG, the climate reduction grant, is we have a steering committee that's got community working groups. They're starting in specific areas that include the built environment. It also includes equity and also workforce development. So we're having those conversations. It's a big lift, but this is just the first phase of getting access to this funding. So we have to have this planning in place, and then it opens the door for just all of the funding for that next effort that can go into planning. So those conversations are definitely happening.
I'd like to add, and I'm going to sound a bit like a broken record on this point, but one thing you're hearing through this discussion is the way structure follows funding. There's grant opportunities coming, and so people are forming collaborations to try to get ready to be competitive for those grants and to put them to good use. And as big as the EPA part of the infrastructure law is, the climate pollution reduction grants are, it's still one-time money. It's like just from, throw your mind back just a few months to the ending of most of the COVID money. It was a huge amount of money that flowed through, but it came to an end. And so to do something like what we're hearing described in the California area, it's a funding stream. They have a reliable, sustained funding stream, and therefore they're able to create the system around it that does the things. And I was very much nodding along with that description about making it as easy as possible, having an implementation body that doesn't need to require 39 cities and the county of King, just in our one county in this 4-county region, have to scramble for grants year after year after year. Like, I love the idea of having a simple, easily accessed implementing stream of funds, but that's why we need to have the conversation with the state about the I always forget the acronyms, the CCA, the Climate Commitment Act monies, which is going to be a topic of discussion this year, right? Like, you can see the politics gearing up to try to cut that back, or do away with it, right? Like, that is, I don't know about y'all, but when I turn on my phone, that is the drumbeat from my friends on the other side of the aisle on my social media feed, like, get rid of this, right? So A, we need to sustain it. B, we need to talk about, can that be used as a way to start something like the RENs, because you just need a sustainable program. So what we would love to do here, one of the things that I would love to do is start a regional heat pump program. Like because we've got the regulations, but we don't have any funding source to help people install. Like the regulations say you have to leave a space for a heat pump, or you have to, okay, like let's help individual building owners put in their heat pumps. And so we can start to get that retrofit going. So we just really are going to need to work with our legislators to try to get sustained funding for this, like they provide funding for, for transportation. It's not the same thing, right? It doesn't map one to one, but there's always a transportation bill, always. And when it starts to run out, they do another one. So we need to treat climate the same way.
Well, that's a great emphasis to end on, Claudia. Thank you. And something that People for Climate Action realized, and that's why we invited Representative Davina Dorr to be in this conversation today. Too bad she couldn't join. But there are other legislators besides Representative Dorr who are hearing this opportunity and talking about how these funds might be channelized or channeled. And so we'll be pursuing that in the weeks and months ahead as a group and as allied groups work with us to see what we can do to improve the channeling of those funds towards existing buildings, because that's where a large part of our emissions problem is, and it's a challenge that we really have to tackle if we're going to hit our greenhouse gas reduction goals. Well, we've come to the end of our promised 90-minute session. I want to thank everyone on the screen, all of the panelists, and especially Jenny Berg for joining us today in this enlightening and educational conversation. Much more work to be done, obviously, in our region to make these things happen that very much need to happen. So we'll be looking to all of you on the screen and all the participants in the webinar for help in the what I think are pretty big political lifts that are coming to make this sort of thing reality here in our region. I'm going to just share my screen in closing. Any last minute one sentence comment that anyone on the team wants to say before I share my screen?
I want to give a shout out to the regional partnerships you see right here. This is a mainly King County group of folks in People for Climate Action thus far. And when you see leaders like Councilmember Dunn in Snohomish and Councilmember Mello and Pierce all coming together with our, King County as a coalition, that's a cause for hope. That's a cause for feeling that progress is possible because we are all coming together, as opposed to, sort of just trying to do our own thing. I think you're seeing that right here, and I appreciate them for being here and for everything that they do.
Great closing comment. Thank you, Claudia. Thanks to everyone. One quick share of my screen, if I can find my screen again. People for Climate Action is an organization you can connect with if you choose to at our website that's on the screen, or you can email us at info@peopleforclimateaction.org. We're happy to follow up with you. Thank you all for attending this event today. And again, thanks to our great speakers. And we look forward to more work in the future to bring down our greenhouse gas emissions, especially in existing buildings. Have a good day, a good weekend, and we look forward to working with all of you in the future. Bye for now.